Thank you for smoking. Hello and welcome to Intoxicated Masculine. It's Wednesday. We got another cocktail video coming at you today. Today, not exactly a cocktail video, but on my recent trip out west, I stopped at a couple of distilleries, and I think a couple of the spirits that we looked at out there are something that's maybe worth talking about a little bit. On our trip, we headed out to Las Vegas. We talked about some Las Vegas distilleries last week. We also went to California. Unfortunately, there wasn't any California distilleries that really sort of inspired me to talk about their products, yet. Maybe next trip. I only went to a couple distilleries. But what really did interest me is we were on our way back through. We stopped in Tucson, and we also stopped in Santa Fe, so Arizona, New Mexico. So the Bac Distillery in Tucson, Arizona, and Santa Fe Spirits, conveniently enough, in Santa Fe, New Mexico. The reason we're looking at these two products together, and this is going to be kind of a shoot. I'll say which one I like the best. But I really like both of these distilleries. I thought they were interesting. They're doing some interesting things. So these are both American single malts. We haven't done a ton of single malt stuff. We do a lot of cocktails. Single malts are, generally speaking, not as often used in cocktails. There's certainly cocktails that feature single malts, but it's probably not the most common usage for them. I was thinking about doing a little sample of a Lefroy. So Lefroy is a peated Scotch, but I think that probably the flavor profile on a Lefroy is going to be a little bit rough and a little bit smoky, and I might not get a good taste on these. So what these distilleries are doing, both of them, is they're making a single malt, just like it would be a Scotch for Scotland. Unfortunately, to be called a Scotch, you have to be made in Scotland. And these are made about as far away from Scotland as you can get. But they are single malts. Now, obviously, for Islay Scotches, what they'll use is peat. They have peat that's naturally occurring there on Islay. They will cut it, dry it, and use it to smoke their barley. That's why Islay Scotches have a very unique, smoky, medicinal kind of flavor. There's no peat in Albuquerque or Santa Fe or Tucson. They are not very flush with peat. What they do have a lot of, however, are mesquite trees. So they've done something that I think is very interesting, and I've sampled both of these at the distillery, but I'm going to these are both fresh cracked bottles, and they've sort of done what everybody does in the spirits industry, is they kind of take what's there, and what they have there is mesquite trees. So they've smoked their barley over mesquite fires, and that is going to give them also a bit of a smoky quality, but a significantly different smoky quality than you'd get out of a peated Irish whiskey. So, that being said, let's give these a try. Alright, so we're going to start off with our Bac. So this comes from the Bac Distillery in Tucson, Arizona. This is, again, this is the Dorado. I'm not sure exactly how different that is from their main line. They say never chill filtered, and it's not sourced. This comes directly from them. The one thing it should be said about these is you would have a very difficult time growing barley in Arizona. Barley likes colder weather. So they do get their barley from somewhere else, but everything else is done right there in the state. And that goes for both of these. Sometimes bottles make you look really weak and or dumb. Alright, let's go ahead and pour just a little bit into our Glencairn. And then our Kilkeegan, which is from Santa Fe. And this is also, like I said, mesquite smoked. Now, when I say smoked, I guess people that are sort of new to scotches might be a little confused. Now, what they're doing is they're smoking the barley. So this is before fermentation. So you're imparting those smoke flavors into the barley before it even gets fermented, before it gets distilled. So this is not something that happens, they're not doing something to the product after it comes off of the still. This is something that happens basically very first in the process. All right, so let's try our Bac. Now, one other kind of important point is I don't know the ages on these. They are fairly young. I think that both of these are maybe 2 years. The other different thing that they do with these is these are both in new charred oak. So Scotches are virtually always, if not always, they're not always, almost always in used barrels. Very often use bourbon barrels, sometimes use sherry casks. There's a lot of different things people can use, but Scotches are almost always aged in used barrels, but these are both in virgin oak. So it does smell a little bit young. The thing that people that are afraid of a peated Scotch, this has a smoky aroma, but it's more mild and it's more, I don't know if I want to say refined exactly. It's sort of a low-key smoke, so it's not going to be overwhelming if you like on your Lafroigs or anything like that. So there's smoke there, but it's sort of, think like barbecue smoke almost. So it is a little young, but it doesn't bother me. I feel like the mesquite and sort of the grain flavors are kind of mingling really well together. There's a thing with smoked, well, the peated whiskeys, where I kind of feel like I kind of like the younger peated whiskeys, and I don't know, I'm not sure what the chemistry is behind it, where the younger grain notes and the smoke notes kind of mix real well together, and I think that's going on really well here. So you do have some grain notes, but again, I feel like it's mixing well with the smoke, and it's mesquite smoke. It really does taste like you're at a barbecue, whereas with a Lafroig, for better or worse, tastes more medicinal, tastes a lot smokier. The smoke is much more apparent, and it is much more front and center. The smoke here is kind of lingering around the edges. It's there, but it's not, you know, it's not beating you over the head. So let's try our Kilkeegan. So this is kind of interesting. The Kilkeegan to me tastes like it might be, well, I don't want to say because I don't know which one of these is older. I don't know the exact ages on these. It tastes maybe a little bit more mature, but I think the smoke has sort of retreated even further back. So this, I feel like the Kilkeegan is a little more mature, but it's also, you're getting a little bit less smoke. Now, depending on what your palate is, that might be what you like. I kind of like the smoky flavor, so just kind of right off the bat, I think the Del Bac is sort of maybe nosing ahead a little bit for me, although I like both of these a lot. Yeah, the Del Bac, you're getting the smoke on the Del Bac is more towards the front of the palate. And it comes in a little bit at the finish too, but it's almost the first thing you taste. With the Kilkeegan, it's a little bit less so. It's you're getting the spirit a lot more, you know, the grain notes, the caramels, things like that. It's more front and center, and the smoke kind of retreats back a little bit. The Kilkeegan is definitely more subtle. I think I like the finish on the Kilkeegan a little bit better though. It's a little more mild on the front. Again, you're not getting the smoke on the front. You are getting some of the malt notes on the front, but it's definitely minimal. And then it really starts to develop. I think the Kilkeegan might be a little bit more complex. That's not to say it's better, but it's definitely different. It has more of a development. The Del Bac really kind of comes in right off the bat. It's a much stronger flavor right on your palate, and I think that it doesn't disappear. It doesn't have a bad finish, but the Kilkeegan has a little bit better finish. Yeah, I kind of hesitate to make a recommendation here. It really does depend kind of on what you're looking for. It also kind of goes to show you that doing basically the same thing. I mean, both of these distilleries are just mesquite smoking malted barley and making a single malt out of it. You would think they would be much more similar than they are, but they are actually not that similar at all. I mean, you're getting the same mesquite notes present, but they're sort of in different places on the palate. Again, Del Bac front end, the Kilkeegan definitely sort of more on the periphery and on the finish. I'm gonna do one last taste of each. I'll say which one I'd prefer, but it's gonna be real close. This kind of shootout isn't meant to say, you know, disparage one distillery or the other. Again, not sponsored by anybody. If you like bourbons, these are going to be rough on you. These are not bourbon. The thing you get with single malts are not sweet on the palate like bourbons are, or even rye to some degree. I mean, rye has the pepperiness, but it still has the sweetness. You usually still have some corn in there, not always. These are both 100% single malts, so it's not going to bring that sweetness. So it's a drier spirit. Plus, you got the smoke in there. So if you're somebody who just sticks to bourbon, I probably can't recommend these too much. If you're a fan of single malts, I would definitely try these for something that's going to have a very similar character, but also have a lot of differences. I mean, the smoke is different. The spirit is much younger. I mean, most of your single malts are going to start off. I mean, there's laws about single malts about how old they have to be, and I think I can't remember how old single malts have to be, but typically you're going to see most of your single malts starting off at about 8 years old. Most starting off around 10 to 12 years old. Whereas these are definitely both significantly under that. Alright, so let's do one last dive into the Del Bac and one into the Kilkeegan. The Del Bac also has a much stronger, is much stronger on the nose. Again, you get those smokes, you get that stuff, it's just right there. The Kilkeegan, a lot more subtle. It's there, the smoke is there, but it's kind of just hanging out on the periphery. Yeah, I mean, the Del Bac just makes me think of going to a tailgate where there's somebody smoking meat and, like, you know, you're having good food and just, it's a very kind of welcoming. It's odd it's made in Arizona because it feels very Midwestern to me. I think it's that smoke and that kind of, I think that somebody like me who grew up in the Midwest associates that smell and that flavor with, you know, autumn and smoked meats and things like that. So while it may come from Arizona, it definitely tastes like home to me. I like the Kilkeegan a lot too. I don't really know which one I'd recommend. I think if you're looking for something that's a little bit more complex but maybe a little bit more subtle, go for your Kilkeegan. If you want something that's a little more aggressive right up front, but maybe sacrifices on the finish a tiny bit, then I'd go ahead and get the Del Bac. I hate not giving a definitive, this is what you should buy, but I think these are both great products. As far as craft distillers, these are both real top-notch products. Unfortunately, there is some quality loss in a lot of craft distilleries, and I think that's unfortunate. There are some craft distilleries where they will place some whiskey in front of you and try to tell you that it is, you know, that it is one thing, and it certainly doesn't taste that. And these guys are good. They're very good. They're very solid. Again, a little on the young side, but I don't really think that I mind that in this case. I do certainly mind it in some bourbons, but in this case, I think the smoke really mingles well with those grain notes. So, yeah, I recommend both of them. Again, a little bit stronger initial smoke palette on the Del Bac, and a little bit more understated, subtle smoke on the Kilkeegan. So, on that bombshell, I want to thank everybody for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll put links to both these distilleries in the comments below. You can go check them out. If you're in the Southwest, definitely go check them out. Nice people at both of them. When we went in, they were all very, very accommodating and very nice, and we liked them a lot. So, yes, have a good drink. Have a good day. Hello and welcome to Intoxicated Masculinity. If it's one day, we've got one day, and who the fuck knows what that means.